we are out in the garden and I have my children with me here, and we are going to run you through on how to dig up your red beets. So we are growing cylindria red beets, so they're nice and long. So Ocean, just give them a show here. So they're long red beets, and these red beets peel super easy, and we'll get to that a little bit later, but we're going to dig them out first. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go step by step as Ocean does it, and then we are just going to show you how it's done. So first of all, because our dirt is heavy clay and we have tons of moisture this year, what we're going to do is just we have to loosen up the dirt. Now, if you're in sandy soil, you probably can just pull them, but here we can't. And let's take a look. Now, we had so much rain that we couldn't even get into the garden. So Ocean, let's first show them the red beets. So weeding, there's a lot of weeds, but they still grew really well. Even though there's like an entire month we couldn't even get into the garden, it was so wet. So look at the size of these red beets. I mean, that's my thumb. So we are about 1.5 inches in diameter, which is really awesome. And we got some really good sized red beets here. And our rows are, I would say, 1, 2, 3, 4 meters by 3 feet, something like that. So we got a lot of red beets to can. So what we're going to do is just loosen it up there, Ocean. And you want to make sure that you don't pierce the red beet. You can do a shovel. The kids are using smaller gardening tools. And you don't want to make them bleed. And bleed means that you pierce it and let the red beet juices run, is what I'm talking about. And we just take off the dirt, and then that is about it at this stage. Then we put them in the basket, and that is the first stage to get them out of the garden. Now, you don't want to scrub them at this stage because that dirt will actually give them just enough moisture so they don't go soft. So what we're going to do is we're going to do half this row, bring them in the house, process, then do the rest of the row, then move to the next one. We do this in stages so they don't wilt. So the rest of you, give her. Pick a side there and give her.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little baby one. So go ahead, Annika.
Oh, right here. How do you want us to get around the dill?
Just go up to the dill, right there.
Okay. Well, then I'll go.
Awesome. So this year has been really hard with everyone with gardening because we had constant rain. We have never had so much rain in this area. I think we've made records.
Can I just pull this?
No. Yeah. Don't pull out the dill, Orion, though. That's volunteer. And so the weeds took over, but thank God we still got a really good red beet harvest, and we got carrot harvest. So we're going to be canning carrots also in the next video, but we're going to focus right now on red beets. We had a really harsh frost, and that's why you see some of the red beets are drooping, and that is because we had about -5. So we've had killer frost here, and that doesn't mean the red beets underground are bad, but we are doing them first because they got hit the hardest. The tomatoes were brought in, so now we're just going to work on the root vegetables. Oh, look at that.
This one's long.
Yeah, that one is, isn't it?
Yep.
So like I said, we're just putting them in a basket, and then when we get the basket right full, then we're going to just knock off the top. So Ocean, while I'm here, let's just show them how that's done. So what you want to do, you just can break it off. Now, what's important, it's what Ocean just did not to do. So let's take a look of why. So she just went ahead and ripped off, and she went right into the red beet. You really don't want to do that. You want to actually cut it off where you actually have a bit on, because when you cook them up, if this is exposed, the red beet will bleed more. That's okay. So what you want to do is actually just knock the top off, and that's why we're going to do it after with knives. So you want to take a knife and leave about a centimeter or to an inch, depends on whether you're Canadian or US, on top, so it kind of looks. So can you break it a little bit higher up to show them? Since we don't got a knife right handy.
Yes, you do.
Yeah,
I have my
you
knife.
have. My son has his pocket knife. Awesome.
I do too. I have mine.
Okay. Well,
I've got mine.
I guess we do got knives out here. Very good. Okay. All right. So yeah, leave about a centimeter on the top.
Just let me use this board here to cut on.
Yeah, that's fine. There we go. So this is what I would like happening. Perfect. So what happens is that when you actually put this in to cook before you can, this here prevents the red beets from bleeding. And same thing, you don't want to take this root off. Just leave it like this because you're going to cook it just like this after we wash them. And that'll prevent any bleeding, and it will keep all the flavor in the red beet. Okay?
Yeah.
You guys got that all?
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's continue and get this row done.
Mommy, it looks like I'm planting red beets in here.
It does.
I'm standing them up as I put them in.
So the red beets are brought in. What I'm going to do is show you how to keep them overnight. So come with me for a second. So we have two baskets, one basket over there and one basket over here. Now if we leave them like this, because there is moisture, they won't go soft, but what I'm going to do is show you how to make sure that they breathe, but yet have enough moisture that they're not going to go soft overnight, because I don't have time to process them tonight. So this is what you do. So you go into your drawer, you get some older tea towels, and I think I probably need 4 of these. I don't use that one, this one here. Okay, you go to your sink, use some cold water, and you just soak them. And then wring them out so they're damp. You don't want them dripping wet. So I'm just gonna wring them out. And what this does is they will breathe through the tea towel, because believe it or not, fruit breathes. If you didn't know that, they do. And if you just put them in like plastic bags, they'll sweat and then they'll mold. And you don't want that either. You just want to keep them crisp. And I'm going to do this overnight because it is 8 o'clock at night right now. And like I said, I don't got the time to process them. So I'm just going to squeeze this out. Again, enough where they're not dripping wet, but it's fully moist. Now I'm going to take my 4 tea towels. And I'm going to just put the rest on the floor here. I'm going to go this way with them, and I'm just going to drape the tea towels on the top, and this will ensure that they won't dry out for the overnight until I get to them in the morning. So let's do the same thing on the other one. And this will also prevent from chewing on the tops at the same time. Right, Vegas? You wouldn't chew on my tops, would you? Would you, huh? Okay. And we'll just tuck in some of these tops here. Straighten this out. Kind of overlap. This one's a little bit bigger of a tea towel. And done. So that is my prep for overnight, and I'll see you in the morning. So it is day 2. So last night we had the red beets covered with the tea towels. Then the next day, so it's middle of the afternoon, and Orion and Annika are going to be washing the red beets, because half of us are going to go out and milk and feed all the animals. And this is what happens. We kind of just, we figure out how to get everything done by teamwork, doesn't it? Lots of teamwork. So these guys are going to head up the washing. So we took the tea towels off. And so Orion, why don't you get a red beet? And Annika, you have a red beet, and let's show them what we're going to do. Now, we like to do this outside. Orion's going to use a scrub brush, and we're going to just basically make the red beets wet, and you scrub off the dirt. Now, you don't want to scrub too hard where you're going to make him bleed. Again, you want to keep the skins on. You are just taking the dirt off. So you want to do this gentle. So when you cook it up, you're not left with tons of dirt at the bottom of your roaster or a pot that you're doing in. Now there's a couple of different methods to cook these, but I will explain that at that time. So scrub gently, right? And it doesn't take much to get the dirt off. So Ryan, you're doing a fantastic job. If you scrub too hard, you actually will scrub the peel off, and that is not good. So take a look at that. What a beauty. And then we have pails here. He's going to just drop it into the pail and off to the next one. Now Annika here, she's going to use the hand method, aren't you? So, and you can go a little harder with your hands and just kind of scrub the dirt. Now you don't want to use your nail, Annika. You just want to scrub the dirt off, okay? Okay, so you can be a little bit more harder on that. Just kind of scrub it off, yeah. And she's 6, so there'll be some nice playing in some water, but she's a big help, aren't you? So you make those red beets crystal clean, okay? And the reason she doesn't have a scrub brush is because it's very easy to apply too much pressure, and then your red beets start to bleed, and that's not cool. So hands are the safest method for her. So those are 2 methods. Sometimes, you know what, hands are just better, period. But if you're careful and you dip it back and forth, you'll get off the dirt fairly quickly and with ease. So we're going to put them in the bucket, and if we run out of time today, we're going to cover them again with the tea towel and then cook them the next day. So, but we're doing this in increments. It doesn't mean that you have to. Remember that, because we've got such a busy household that a lot of times we can't do everything all on the same day. So we do step by step, and that really helps alleviate, you know, the tired legs, the stress of going from pulling from the garden to washing to cooking to looks awesome, to peeling, to cutting, to canning. That's it. That just makes one really long day, and in all honesty, we don't have that kind of time in one day. So this is how you do it when you're doing it in stages. And having the tea towels on overnight does not mold. Look at that, Annika. Good job. Awesome. So the other thing, Orion, that I forgot to mention, Annika, take that one back. I forgot to mention this now that I see it. Do you see this leaf here? Just, if you see these loose leaves, just, whoop, I can't do that with one hand. Just kind of pull it off. Pull that dead leaf off. There you go. It just cleans it up. And any kind of, you know, like this dead pieces, so that way it doesn't go in my pot. So we just want this top. Yeah, that looks awesome.
That is a little...
Yeah, no, it looks awesome. So just put it over there. Now I lost my train of thought here. It won't mold. I was talking about mold, wasn't I? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So having the tea towels on overnight won't mold them. Now if you continuously have them in a damp environment, yes, you'll have mold, but having them for 1 day or even 2 is not that big of a deal. Okay, so you guys continue washing. I'm going to head out and milk, and you guys doing an awesome job. So this is the cooking stage. Let's take a look. So we got our 2 baskets. They're kind of separated into 2 different sizes, small ones and big ones. We're going to take our red beets, and I got a roaster down here. And I'm just going to put it into the roaster, just like that. So you want to keep the roots and the top's on so it doesn't bleed all over the place when you cook it up. So you're gonna fill your roaster as full as it gets. Now you try to keep it about the same size. You don't want to put really small with big because the cooking time will be different. So I'm just going to load up my roaster here. That one's a pretty small one, so I'm going to take that one out. I want these big ones in here. Like that. The kids nicely washed these and they already separated them without me telling them, and that was an awesome thing for them to do. So I can get all these big ones. That one goes better that way. And this one here. And the reason why you cook these is to take the skins off and to soften. Now you can't just throw raw red beets canned. It doesn't work really good. You always need to cook them. And that's too, if you are fermenting red beets, you want to cook them beforehand. So that's about full. Now we take it in the house. Okay, now that we're in the house, what you want to do is you need to put a little bit of water at the bottom here. So basically you're kind of like steaming them. See how much water I got here. So I'm about a centimeter from the bottom, and that's just so they don't stick and burn. Now these will sweat and release some liquid. The other thing to remember is anytime you have loose tops like this you want off, you want it as clean as possible at this stage. So I got my water in, got my red beets in, I'm going to cover them, woo, and don't lose the lid. You want to cover them up. These here and some roots that are sticking, just kind of press them in. Come on, root, work with me. Okay. And then that root just don't want to stay. There you go. And then we want to put it in the oven. Now you could boil these. You could fill up a stock pot and you could boil them up on top of the stove, but I prefer baking them in the oven. One, you lose less of the juice, and it just steams it so nicely in the oven, and I really prefer that. So it'll take me about 4 or 5 batches in the oven to get this done, because I need my stove top empty, because obviously supper comes along. I just need everything cleared. And then as we take them out, we're gonna cut them and put them in the bowl. So cooking, when they're that big, you're about an hour and 15 minutes to hour and a half. You wanna test one. You always wanna test the biggest one. See if it comes out soft. Now, I'm not talking mushy soft here. I'm talking, can I put my fork in, and is it easy enough to stick in and come out but not fall apart? We're not looking at baby food. We're looking at a vegetable that is cooked thoroughly, but it still holds, it's still firm. Okay? So I'm going to bake at 350, and I'm going to just put my timer in for an hour, and I'm going to check it at an hour, and then we'll see what happens. 1 hour has elapsed, so we're going to check the red beets here. I love the smell of cooked red beets. I just do. Okay, let's close the oven here. Okay, so let's check this. So let's look for one of the biggest ones is right here. And as you can see, I can put quite a bit of pressure and I can't even stab through. And I'm just gonna check one of these small ones. They're not quite done. So the way that they're feeling, I'm actually gonna wait, probably put in another hour. They need another hour in the oven, which is no problem. The big ones always take longer than the small ones for obvious reasons. So in they go again. Another hour passed. Let's just check these. You probably noticed on the last film when I put the hot red beets in, I actually burnt myself. I was focusing on putting it in, didn't realize how close my hand was to the side of the oven, and now my hand hurts quite a bit. But anyway, so let's take a look. Okay, so again, this is a nice big guy. Look at that, how much simpler it is. You see the juices come out? That means if this bigger one is done, all the rest, and I'm not going to try to poke anymore because you really don't want the juice to come out. You want that in there. So the next step is to basically cover this and let them cool down a bit. Now, it is important that you cover this so therefore the skins do not dry out. If the skins dry out, then it makes it very difficult to peel. With these red beets, you basically will grab them and in a matter of 2 seconds, the entire peel will come off, the root will come off, and the top in one swoop, and I'll show you that. So it is very important. Now, it is way too hot to handle, and sometimes I get impatient and I can't wait for them to cool down, and I actually put a very, very heavy rubber glove on, something like your heavy dish gloves, and I will actually quickly start peeling them, but I still have to let them cool down for an hour. So I'm going to let these cool down probably for an hour to hour and a half, and then we're going to peel them and cut them up, and I'll show you the whole entire operation when it comes to that. It is the fun part. This is the part the kids absolutely love. So what we have set up is my kids are the cutters and the choppers, and I'm the peeler, because this is warm and I don't want them to burn themselves. Now I will peel it, then I will put a red beet on each one of their cutting boards, and they know from experience that the red beets may be warm, so they just wait a few minutes, let them cool off, and they cool off very quickly. These are experienced red beets cutters, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just watch us, and you'll learn. You notice I don't have my everyday homemade apron on because this is red beets, and my apron is a really light color, and I don't want to stain that particular apron, so I'm wearing Happiness is Homemade instead. Again, I'm wearing a heavy set of gloves here because otherwise I will burn myself, because these are hot. As you can see, the steam is still on them, and that's what I want. I want them warm because red beets peel the best when they're warm. So basically, I take off the top, and you can see the peel come right off, just like that. And these red beets peel really easily, and the first one is all done. So this little imperfection the kids will chop off. The top here, you guys just knob off a little better. I can also kind of take it off, that's good enough, and they're going to chop it. So I am going to give this one to Orion. Ocean, if you want to just grab a transfer bowl right here, I'm missing a bowl, and come to look at it, this is our main bowl that we'll put all the chopped ins. The kids got other bowls here to transfer into the main bowl, but I don't want to be throwing hot red beets across here, so I just need a transfer bowl. Okay, so let's do that again. So the root comes off, and we just kind of slide the peel. Look at that. This is why I love this variety of red beets. Done. And as you can see, I splattered, and I didn't want that all over my apron because red beet juice isn't quite the easiest thing to come out. And so I'm going to give this, and it just, you guys, if there's imperfection in the red beets, just cut it off. So Ocean, as you can see, just keep Thrace going. These are hot, so be careful that it doesn't go off your cutting board. Wonderful. So as you can see, you can get quite a bit done in a very short period of time. Now I'm not waiting as long as I sometimes will wait for these to cool down, because my 1-year-old is snoozing right now. And I'm gonna take that opportunity because it's a little more difficult when she is up to be doing this. And she's teething horribly, so I wanna get this done while she is sleeping. Thank you. Ocean, do you want to just demonstrate there for them exactly how the sizes and stuff that we usually chop our red beets up for canning?
Sure.
So she slices them first, and then she again cuts them into smaller pieces. So just watch her do a few. And you know what, when I am doing red beets with the kids, I don't look for perfect sizes. As long as they're chopped up into bite-sized pieces, it's good to go. So just get on top of her there a little better, Nova. There you go. Now that part is done, they're gonna finish chopping. So all these skins and tops, this is awesome compost. I actually will feed it out to our compost pile, but our compost pile is in with our birds, and the chickens and the geese and the ducks are gonna go crazy over it. And so nothing goes to waste. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do batches like this. It's probably gonna take about 6 batches to get all the red beets done. Then we're gonna come back and we're gonna start canning them. Now, I grew up with a wonderful cinnamon, clove, nutmeg flavor in our red beets. So I'll show you how to do that, but while I'm doing that, I'll also tell you, if you really like that kind of really sweet red beet in the store that you buy, I'll also tell you what ingredients you can do that with also. So, you guys finished chopping?
Yeah.
And then we're gonna go can. It is canning day, and you notice that yes, I have a gauze that is just painter's tape holding on because the burn that I received, I guess this would be the following day. We went out with Ocean and we went to catch one of the steers to halter break, and my hand got caught in its halter, actually ripped the burn apart. Took the skin right off. Anyway, it is sore and it is heat sensitive, so it's wrapped, so it looks a little bit prettier than what it is because it is really ripped open, and 2, I don't want the steam on it while I'm canning. So that's why it's there. It's just to protect it a little bit. Otherwise, I'm just actually putting my own cream with some essential oils and stuff on it, which has been helping significantly. So let's get to canning here. We have all the red beets cut, as you can see here. All the red beets are cut. We put them in the fridge overnight, so they are chilled. Right now, they're probably been out here for about an hour, so they're probably closer to room temperature. what do we need to do? Now, you can watch a canning video right here, and that'll give you a good idea on the setup, but there's going to be a couple things that are going to be different. So I have sterilized jars. They've been washed, sterilized at 200 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 minutes. We've cut down the oven to 170 Fahrenheit, and that's just going to hold them so they stay warm. So take a look. So we have jars. Okay? So the next thing that needs to happen is I have my canner. It's on low heat, just keeping this warm. Not insanely hot, just warm. And it is on low, and I'm just gonna cut it back just a little bit. I just want the water warm. The next thing is I have a pot here. It has just lukewarm water. I'm gonna turn this on, and I'm actually going to put 7 wide mouth snap lids, on it. So I'm just gonna put 1 here. Now you're gonna notice a pattern. Watch how I put these in. I'm gonna put 2 here, and then I'm gonna flip a couple. And I do this because I use a magnet to get these out of the water. And when I do this design, what it does, and I'm not counting, 4, what am I, 5, 6, and then 7 here. So I have 7. I think I got 7.
Yeah.
What I want to do is make sure that they're fully covered with water, and this pattern prevents them, when I take the magnet, from 2 to sticking together. So I want this water warm. I don't want it boiling. I want it warm to hot to get the snap lids ready to be sealed onto the jars. So the next thing I need, because we're canning red beets, we need a brine made. We also need some herbs. Now the red beets that I grew up on, that my mom always made, that I really like, have cloves and cinnamon and allspice as the spice to go into it. It is also the brine. We're gonna have vinegar, water, we're gonna have honey, and some salt as the brine. So what it does, about a couple of months after, all the cinnamon and the cloves and the allspice come together and make such a wonderful tasting red beet. And so that's what we're doing today. So where to begin with the brine? Very simply, basically we're going to be making a brine that has vinegar in it, but it's not going to be a half and half. A lot of brines, you are half vinegar, half water, or you're almost 3/4 vinegar and 1/4 water. What we're doing here is we're actually going to do 12 cups of water, 4 cups of vinegar, a 1/3 cup of salt, and we are going to add in about a 1/2 cup of honey. What this does is it gives the perfect ratio for the red beets to be not so heavily vinegary that, I don't know if you taste the canning and you just kind of pucker because there's so much vinegar. This really rounds it out, but it also saves on the vinegar, saves on the sugar, but also it just is the perfect proportion for it. So what I use here is I actually use apple cider vinegar when I can. Now this kind of goes against popular canning because you use white vinegar, but apple cider vinegar is healthier. And yes, it does kill all the culture, but it's not bleached and processed, so it is a healthier vinegar. The other thing that I am using here is sea salt. This is actually salt that has all the minerals in it, and I do have a cup here because I'll have to make a couple of batches, but I'll be using 1/3 of this for the first batch, and I've never had a problem using this kind of salt. The other thing that I want to prep here is my cinnamon bark. So my cinnamon bark is here. What I usually do with the cinnamon bark in preparation to go into my jars, I go into my kitchen drawer and I smash these. And that gives me the perfect size pieces for my jars. So I'm just actually gonna just spill that right in here. Come on out. There we go. And so you can see that some are still bigger. So what I'm going to do is just crush this some more. There you go. So that's my sizes that I will put this in the canning jars, and I'll show you that in a moment. So the other thing I have here is allspice. I have full allspice, and I'm just going to put a couple into each jar, and I also have whole cloves. Okay, so let's get this all together. Let's start with our pot. Here, let's start with 12 cups of water. And after the first one goes in, we're going to turn this right to max. I want this to heat up very quickly. Okay, there's 12 cups of water. Now we need 4 cups of vinegar. And that jug is done, so we're going to do this one here. So there's 4 cups. And then we need a cup of salt. And just loosen this up a little. Okay. Perfect. Mix that in, and then the last ingredient is a half a cup of honey. Look at that. Now that is awesome honey. What I'm gonna do is I just took this pot right here off the stove for a second, and this kind of dark little bit is actually just some of the unfiltered mother, and it doesn't affect the canning. This doesn't, you know, this is like using real food, real, you know, unfiltered stuff, and it works out just fine. So basically, I am taking one massive ladle and I'm going right in here. And this ends up being about a half a cup, and that's what I want. And I'm actually just going to drop my ladle in here because as the mixture heats, all the honey is going to come off my ladle. And that was a brand new bucket of honey, so that's why I kind of moved my pot towards the honey, because that's a 30-pound honey bucket and I just didn't want to move it again. So basically we're going to reach this to a simmer. We're going to get it really, really smoking hot. That's what you need. So at the end we have everything hot, and then I will show you how to fill your jars and what to do here in adding your spices in. Everything is hot now. Let's start canning. So let's take the lid off the canner. We got the brine hot. We have this liquid hot here for the snap lid. We have our little magnet to pop those out. We have our tongs here. These here get the hot jars into the canner. This here is a funnel for the red beets. So we have everything we need set up. We also have the red beets here. Let's get those a little closer. And I just buried my, and I have a wooden spoon, and you will see why I need that. Now we need the basket into the canner here, because you have to have this, otherwise your jars will crack. So the biggest thing when you can is temperature change. You need the jars hot. You need the brine hot. You need everything about the same temperature. Now I have everything, I wouldn't say like boiling hot, but everything is nice and warm. And that way when I put it into the canner, the temperature change is not going to shock the jars and the jars bust. The biggest problem that some people have is the jars are so hot that your canner then is not as hot, and you got too big of a can change, and then you bust your jars. So I have everything warm, and then I'll show you. This is my method of doing it. So I have my jars warm in the oven, and I put them on a piece of paper towel so it's easy cleanup after. I use my funnel, And basically, this is where I'm gonna take about, oh, there's probably 6 cloves. I'm gonna put them at the bottom. I'm gonna put 2 allspice. I'm going to put, oh, I don't know, 5 or 6, 7, 8, whatever cinnamon. I'm a cinnamon-aholic, so I love it. So there's about 8 pieces in there. Really, I do this randomly. I don't have like a set, I put in this amount. I just kind of randomly put it in. And then I fire in my red beets. Now I really like using a funnel here. It just really helps keep things nice and neat and from spilling everywhere. Then I use my wooden spoon, and I actually am going to push down the red beets, and that way we can add more to them. And you want your can to be as pressed down as possible. But you also want to leave enough head space that you can get enough brine in here. Okay? Then I kind of just press this down. I kind of use both sides of this wooden spoon. And I notice that, yeah, I can probably use about a half a scoop. Okay, so now I'm going to press this down some more. That's about right, because I do want the brine to come up to here. So that looks really, really good. So I'm actually just going to put my funnel and my wooden spoon just right over here. I'm going to add a little bit more cinnamon at the top and a little bit, 3 or 4 more cloves just at the very top. So I have the bottom and the top, and so the flavor goes both ways and kind of meets somewhere in the middle. Okay, the next thing I want to do is grab my funnel again, and I'm going to grab my jar. Remember, this jar is hot. Just kind of move it over, and this is where I'm going to add in my brine. Now I'm just going to give my brine a light mix, and this brine is hot, and you notice how it starts filling up all the little air pockets and space, and that's really good. And you notice I only had 2 small ladles, and you'll see how when you really pack your jars in, it saves you money on the brine as well, especially if you're using really good ingredients like I do. Nothing comes cheap anymore, and so if you can really push your brine to go as far as you can, that is wonderful. So again, so as you can see, my brine is up to this first, so I'm about a ½ an inch from the top, which is perfect. I'm going to just take my wooden spoon, and I'm just gonna go down again, and I'm gonna, as you can see from here, you can see the air pockets coming out, and my brine has now disappeared. Did you see that? Take a look. Now I don't have enough brine. You want it to cover. Again, I'm going to just use the top of my funnel and press it down a little bit, and look at that, almost like magic. My brine is up a bit. It's still not enough. I want just literally like a teaspoon to a tablespoon in here, just enough to cover. And there you have it, perfectly covered. Then what I want to do is you just run my finger around it. It's done. I wipe it on here, and then I take a snap lid on top. It's hot, and then I have, of course, my lid here or ring, and then you can use a tea towel or you can use anything to grab this jar. Tighten it right up, as you can see, and then put it in your canner, and one is done. So now I'm going to do this much faster, and I'm not going to talk through it. You can just watch. Okay, so all the canning jars in this batch, which is 7, is done. It's in the canner. I've now bumped up the heat. So basically you want to put the lid on, you want to reach it to a simmer, you want to simmer it for 15 minutes and then process it. As you can see, we did about over half of the bowl there of red beets. As you can see, this will do about 14 quarts. So that's really good on the ingredients we put in here. And that's what I like about this proportion so much, because it can go so far. So we're just going to wait for our canner to be done, and then we're going to take the cans out. So the canner is now done. Now the first step you want to do is depressurize. So you want to turn off the canning hot plate and you want to remove the lid. And basically you want to leave it here for 5 minutes. That the simmering will stop, everything will slow down, and then you want to remove the jars. So now that this is depressurized, let's take out our canning jars. Now the first one I take out slowly and I just slightly tilt, and that way the water at the top comes out. I put it on top of a tea towel because I am going a distance, and I put it on a towel so it doesn't burn my table. Now we do that again. We need to wait for these to pop or snap. Once that it has happened, that can happen from now or 24 hours. So you don't want to touch them, you don't want to disturb them for 24 hours. And then you follow the test. The test is you take your finger and you go and you see if the snap lids are pressed down. There shouldn't be a popping up and down. If they pop up and down, they are not sealed. Take off the snap lid part here, or the ring, I should say, when you put them in stores so you can reuse the ring. Once these are sealed, they're sealed. It's not going to go anywhere. And then that is it. You're all done canning and ready for cold storage. I hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you on the next one.